Hello, everyone. Again, it's me. And this week's excerpt is from When a Child is Born, the very first short story I ever wrote. Just the first few pages, just to give you a flavour of what's happening on Christmas Day in 1066. I was in trouble again. No surprise there, it's my default state. Dr. Bairstow raised his eyes from my report and regarded me steadily. Behind him, his PA, Mrs. Partridge, sat scratchpad in hand, making the Sphinx look like a collection of facial tics. Yes, I was in trouble again. He cleared his throat. Here we go. Dr. Maxwell, the assignment was, I believe I have the details here. Yes. Jump to London, Westminster Abbey, 25th of December, 1066. Witness the coronation of King William I. Ascertain the cause of the disturbance that interrupted the ceremony and discover the extent of the subsequent fire and riots. I'm almost certain I impressed upon you the importance of our client and the need for a successful conclusion. Yes, sir, you were very clear. I also know that while brevity is admirable, I do require something a little more detailed than just, it was very cold. He shut down the data stick and regarded me again. You don't see the need to perhaps flesh things out a little? I racked my brains for something that wouldn't make things worse. It was snowing, sir. The silence in the room grew very loud. So, to recap, I dispatched my two most senior historians, you, Dr. Maxwell and Dr. Peterson. I assigned the head of security, Major Guthrie, to support you, together with, and the reason for this escapes me now, Mr. Markham. And your combined talents and expertise can produce nothing more remarkable than it was very cold and snowing, he added, seeing me open my mouth. I shut it again. Where is the rest of your team, Dr. Maxwell? In their quarters, sir. They did not feel the need to join you this morning. Well, of course they bloody didn't. They were in the bloody bar. We'd drawn lots. I'd lost. He pointed. Sit down. Half of me was glad to sit down. The other half was clamoring to join the others in the bar. He settled back in his chair. Report. I opened my mouth. In full this time. I discarded what I had been going to say and gave him the truth. Peterson bumped the pod on landing. I don't know how he manages it. When we got ourselves sorted out, we realised we were in the wrong place. Instead of being tucked away in a neat little alleyway only a stone's throw from Westminster Abbey, we were actually several miles away in a snowy wood on a hillside looking down at smoky London town below us. I can't understand it, said Peterson defensively, his breath clouding in the cold, frosty air. The coordinates are spot on. Maybe IT made a mistake. It was more likely the coordinates were right and we were wrong. It does happen occasionally, and at least we weren't perched precariously on the lip of an active volcano or at the bottom of the sea. It just meant we had a 2-mile walk downhill through a Christmas card landscape to get to our destination. It could have been worse. You can't outrun a pyroclastic flow. We sent Markham on ahead as a kind of human snowplow and trudged along behind in single file. It wasn't unpleasant. The day, bitterly cold, but the sun shone, the exercise kept us warm, and we had one of England's more exciting coronations to look forward to. Just 2 months after his victory at Hastings, William the Conqueror, anxious to consolidate his hold on a sullen and resentful Saxon England, had ordered his coronation at Westminster Abbey. Peterson and I were keen to see the Abbey since we'd jumped there once before to watch its early construction. We hadn't seen a lot on that occasion because a huge block of stone had fallen out of the sky nearby, and Peterson had peed on me. Contemporary records say that at the part of the ceremony where William was crowned, the cries of acknowledgement were so enthusiastic that the soldiers stationed outside panicked and set fire to part of the building, thereby unleashing riots and generally disruptive behaviour. Typical military, said Peterson, wading through a snowdrift. Yes, said Major Guthrie sarcastically, because the history department's never set fire to anything in its entire life, has it? How this little discussion would have ended was anyone's guess, because at that moment Markham halted, bent forward and said quietly, "Blood." "Stay here," said Guthrie as he pushed past us on the narrow path and went to look. We ignored him and crowded round. Blood, a lot of blood, spotted the glistening snow. Indistinct scuffed tracks looked as if something had been dragged. "He went this way," said Markham, pointing down the path. "What did?" I said, peering between the trees. "Not an animal," said Guthrie. "We need to go this way anyway, so everyone stick together and stay alert. For the benefit of all historians present, that means do not wander off alone." We followed the bloody tracks around the next bend. Guthrie was right. It was a man, and he was badly hurt. He lay across the path right in front of us. He wore thick, coarse trousers and a long tunic. His head and shoulders were covered with some kind of hood, which was pushed back to show tangled fair hair. His boots were sturdy, but he wore no gloves. A blood-stained axe lay nearby. "He's a woodcutter," said Guthrie. "Had a bit of an accident by the looks of things." He paused. "Max?" I sighed. I was mission controller. That meant they all did exactly as they pleased until an unpleasant decision needed to be made, and then suddenly it was all down to me. I looked at the man, blue with cold, barely conscious, and his left leg wet with bright red blood. "We should leave him. If you want to put it in the harshest terms possible, we should step over him and continue on our way. Peterson and I had nearly been wiped out once when I just thought about intervening in a robbery. History really doesn't like us doing that sort of thing. On the other hand, I'd saved lives when a wartime hospital blew up and survived that. And I'd killed Jack the Ripper and survived that. I'd even meddled with Mary Stuart and survived that as well. This was just an ordinary woodcutter. In the scheme of things, how important could he be? As I looked down at him, his eyelids fluttered. Above us, a dark cloud passed across the sun. A few snowflakes drifted down. I sold it to myself on the grounds that he was probably dying anyway. Even just moving him might be enough to kill him. We were just taking him somewhere to die in peace, and it was Christmas Day, goodwill to all men. They were all looking at me. I nodded, and Peterson and Markham heaved him up. He never made a sound. Guthrie picked up the axe and examined it. Was he attacked? Did he defend himself? No. This is a workplace-related incident, I think. Swung at the tree and the axe rebounded, hit his own leg. It happens. Will he die? Probably. Ahead of us, Markham halted again. I smell wood smoke. We inched our way forwards to see. Ahead of us, in a small, snowy clearing, stood a typical Saxon hut with several inches of snow on its sloping, straw-thatched roof. A tiny plume of smoke rose straight up in the still air. A lean-to literally leaned against the walls, and several pens and enclosures were dotted around. Somewhere a hungry sheep baaed plaintively, and others took up the bleat. Hanging between Peterson and Markham, the woodcutter made a small noise. "Wait here," said Guthrie. They lowered him to the ground, and Guthrie and Markham crept forwards. Peterson watched the clearing, and I watched the path. The times were dangerous. All across the country, Norman overlords were taking ruthless possession. Saxon culture was being dismantled and destroyed. Desperate, landless Saxons roamed everywhere. Rebellions were bloodily obliterated before they even got going. William, aware of his still precarious hold on this country, was not messing around. I shivered. With the sun gone, the temperature was plummeting. There were no other footprints in the snow, but we were cautious all the same. Guthrie thumped on the wooden door, and after a few seconds, carefully pushed it open and disappeared inside.